Now, if you grew up in the early 2000s, or if you're just a massive fan of giant robots punching each other, then you've probably watched at least one Transformers movie. After 5 Michael Bay explosion fests, 2 Bumblebee spin-offs, and 1 animation studio's scramble to reinvent the franchise, I thought we'd look at the nuts and bolts of what makes Transformers themselves so iconic. Now, before we start, I want to make some things clear. I'm ranking these subjectively, so don't get upset in the comments if I put Clanker 38 in the bin, because I will, and you can't stop me. 2, I'm only covering the most memorable characters, so if I miss your favorite, I'm sorry, but I had no idea how many Transformers there actually were, and for the sake of this video and my sanity, I've only chosen the very best. Finally, there is a method to my madness. I'll be ranking each of these on 3 elements. First, their design, second, how much they added to their respected film, and finally, how much I care for them as a badass robot. With all that said, let's get into it. Let's start with some of the heavy hitters. If you ask anyone about Transformers, most will mention the same character without fail. Optimus Prime is the embodiment of a leader through his design, action sequences, and iconic speeches. He has been the forefront of storylines and the face of the franchise, but none of these elements matter if not for one fundamental reason. The voice of Prime has continuously been linked with one powerhouse actor. Peter Cullen has voiced this Autobot leader with every opportunity, offering a calm but defiant presence against any antagonist. Whether it's Megatron plowing through a city, the Fallen conspiring to take our sun, or Lockdown murdering the Autobots, he has always filled audiences with hope. That's not dismissing the other parts of his character. Optimus has gone through many different iterations that have reinvented his look. Michael Bay started with more tangible components, such as the wheels locking into his legs, or the windshield comprising his chest. Even his weapons were red-hot iron that sliced through Decepticons. This didn't last long though, as the logical designs quickly turned to a more medieval knight look to match his noble qualities. But again, this didn't last long. The designers reverted his look back to a similar Gen 1 style, and then finally into a more stylistic and colourful animation. Despite his ever-changing looks, his presence on screen has always been a highlight, and this is why Optimus solidifies himself as one of the most iconic Transformers. This is everyone's favourite comic relief badass. Bumblebee has proved time and time again that even without a voice, he can shout the loudest by his selfless dedication to protecting his human or fearlessness when charging into battle. And this all comes down to one thing, that the modernization got spot on. His voice is the most unique out of all of his robotic counterparts. The fact the designers not only put a literal cap over his mouth, but his compilated mix of song and radio conversations forced the audience to listen to the words spoken rather than his tone. This opened up a whole new level of emotional depth when it came to Bumblebee. He also lives up to his name in literal ways that you may have missed. Despite a few design iterations, some elements are key. His wide bug-like eyes, antennas that mold into his head, his back side door wings, and yellow and black color scheme all help solidify his name. The fact that he combines such subtle audio cues, clumsy body language, and jaw-dropping combat is no surprise that he has earned his place at the top of this ranking. This is a biased choice, but as one of my favorites, I had to include him. Ironhide is a literal adrenaline rush when he appears on screen, if not for his outrageous cannon-heavy design, but his devastating betrayal in Dark of the Moon. But he's not just about blowing things up. On first impression, he might seem one-dimensional, but this is wrong. His dialogue promotes a rash but caring tone to his team and the humans he desperately wants to protect. This is doubled down on by his creators, showing him dive head-on into pursuing Decepticons or firing his cannons directly into the ground to avoid a single civilian. Despite not having as much time in the spotlight, he definitely deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. This should have been a home run, as how could you mess up a fire-breathing, transforming T-Rex? Grimlock suffers from over-design while also having every color replaced for a shade of grey. But that's not to say he doesn't have the most iconic moments from the less than brilliant Age of Extinction. His showdown with Optimus Prime was stunning, with the ground shaking under the weight of their battle, but the highs don't stop there, as they ride into battle with Optimus slicing up Decepticons while Grimlock burns them to the ground. But unfortunately, delivering some crazy action sequences was the only use for what could have been a legendary character, along with the other Dinobots. Don't even get me started on the Dark Souls boss he turns into. With the introduction of the Maximals, I thought the franchise was in dire trouble. Despite not fully enjoying Transformers Rise of the Beasts, I'm glad that this character proved me wrong. Optimus Primal is a massive robotic gorilla that commands the same presence as his counterpart Optimus Prime. The mix of metal and fur all collaborate to deliver something familiar but primal. But there was one thing that made Optimus Primal stand out above the rest. Unlike an Autobot or Decepticon transforming into something humanoid to communicate, the Maximals transformed back into animals, which created a unique dynamic in size and delivery. The reason Optimus Primal works the best is probably due to his less exaggerated design and remaining humanoid in whichever transformation suited. His success also depended on one decision made by the film writers. Despite its lacking depth and seriousness, they landed an emotional blow to audiences. Having him lose his mentor and having to become the core protector of the Maximals while also fleeing their world created a familiar dynamic with a certain red and blue Autobot. He may not be the strongest in this franchise, but deserves a place on the board. With Optimus being such a pillar of stature in the Transformers films, the creators needed someone equally as powerful to lead these stories. This brings us to Megatron. Whether it's the jagged alien look of the modern Michael Bay films, or the bulky grey tower that he is in Transformers 1, his designs never disappoint. However, it's his relations that really sell his character, offering a deep longing for his home to return to its former glory, his brotherly conflicted past with Prime, or simply taking his frustrations out on Starscream. He is a joy to watch on screen. There's one more element that truly rounds off Megatron as the best villain in the whole franchise. The voice actor Hugo Weaving delivered something no other actor could. His menacing undertones constantly deliver an unnerving feeling to anyone watching and still deliver to this day. It would be a crime not to have him rightfully on this list. Here we have everyone's favorite tragedy. Starscream is a menacing antagonist that pales in comparison to his master. His constant plans to overthrow Megatron creates great comic relief when dealing with world-ending situations. But this character is more than a joke. Starscream is a force not to be reckoned with. The designers made sure that his wingspan created an imposing iconic shape when he rained down terror, taking out electronic communications or pinning prey like a vulture, all accentuated his slimy nature. For a character constantly with a boot on his throat, he still manages to stand tall above many past and future Decepticons. Now, this is a character design that couldn't be missed. Devastator, an intricate combination of construction vehicles that forge a juggernaut. There have been plenty of Cybertronians that have merged with another, but none to this scale. For this time of cinema, this was a visual masterclass. This said, Devastator was crushed by the weight of his own spectacle. I just wanted more. Maybe less of his two dangling wrecking balls, but more development. I loved the varied colors, the vacuum that consumed everything and anything, but his origin would have been the icing on this ginormous cake. The first time I watched the original Transformers, nothing created the fear of the unknown extraterrestrials like this. Scorponok, despite the name being a little on the nose, showed audiences that Transformers could be more than just cars and planes, but something more animalistic or insectoid. Now, I'm going to contradict myself here. Normally, I would say a design that sticks to brown or grey metals is somewhat uninspired, but here it has purpose. Having his color scheme blend into the desert sand for a quick and vicious takedown of the military only accentuated the idea that what we're dealing with was still shrouded in mystery. Scorponok may have passed under the radar, but definitely not this one. Everyone remembers this guy. Shockwave was a Leviathan commanding death machine that was always a treat to see in action. This said, he wasn't perfect. Not because he was destroying cities, but with an overly demonic look and little in the way of his science-focused skill set, was hard to see him as a third-dimensional adversary. That's not to say he was completely dissected. His appearance in Transformers 1 did take him back to his design roots, even if they were short-lived. But that's just my opinion, so tell me your most iconic Transformer, or if I missed your favorite from the list. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, this doesn't happen without you.